is the whole internet going to start to look the same? And like the answer is like a little.
Yeah. Yes, if we're not careful.
If we're not exactly. If we're not bringing our own taste and insight and direction to it, then yes, absolutely. Yeah. But that's what we're going to solve for today, right?
Yes. So I'm going to show you a couple pages I've made in different builders. This is in Claude design. All of them are for a dog walking business. This is Mainline Mutts. And I want you to notice a couple things like this thing right here, this little stat block over top of an image. That is Claude design, like built into its DNA. It always does that in Heroes unless you ask it to do otherwise. There's this floating image with a nice looking drop shadow. Down here, you see these cards with the same border radius that Jesse, I know, has talked about in the past. Overlaid images.
You talked about the beigification. It's the roundification of all elements on the internet.
And like the thing I want to be clear about is like this looks nice. And Anne asked a question, but don't templates do the same thing? And the answer is yeah. But the purpose of templates are to get you to like a least common denominator type site, a site that is there to get you up and running. And that's fine, but it's not going to necessarily stand out. Now, you can stand out with things like imagery. That's a big thing that you could focus on to stand out. But I think you can also push the actual design of the site that you've built. And that's one of the really cool things about AI is oftentimes in the past, we started with templates because we didn't know how to build the thing that we wanted to build. But now with the help of these AI tools, you can build things that you couldn't in the past. And that's what I'm going to show you, like how to push on a little today.
Yeah. And I think like in terms of templates, like it kind of proves of what we're talking about here today is like with a template, you still bring kind of your own touch to it. You don't take a template and publish it as the template. You add your content, you make your content design tweaks, whatever. Plus, like I think an important point of distinction is if we think of how much of the internet WordPress used to run, right? Like, and especially in like a small business entrepreneur space, WordPress was dominant. Those templates were not all designed by WordPress. Like there was a universe of designers and developers coming to that with like different starting points, different ideas, different taste. Whereas what we're talking about here is like a few select AI tools with their own design personality, creating a ton of output. And so I think we have to be that much more intentional about a distinction.
Here is Lovable's version of the same prompt. I used the same exact lightweight prompt to generate these pages to start. And this is nice. It has a beautiful hero. That looks great. But again, kind of beigification. Everything is in this tan family. Again, like these overlays, which look fine. They look fine, but they don't look specifically like me. These same cards for presenting things. Testimonials. And the thing I do really like about this is the sign up form presentation at the bottom. But again, just a little like beige. And you don't have to like tear your site up from the ground up if you don't want to. That's not necessarily what I'm suggesting. What I want to walk through is ways that you can add pieces of personality into your site. I'm going to show something else kind of fun. This is in AWeber. This is your sneak peek at the landing page builder in AWeber. Dave, I see you're on the call. This is something that we're working really hard to get into folks' hands because I've just been playing around with this, making really kind of wild off-the-wall things, and it has been an absolute blast. But by default, we're picking up some of these same standard design styles, these like left-hand borders on value propositions or services in this case, that we can just add some personality into. Again, perfectly fine site. If you don't have anything else, this is great, but you can make it feel more like you. So with all,
I gotta ask, did you give it explicit instruction around typeface?
No,
because I feel like I unless I'm like misremembering, I feel like every single one went with that like serif header, sans serif body copy or
other than
copy.
Claude design.
Oh no, not well. There's a subtle aspect element in there, but you're right. Although that's a very Claude look to like combine serif and sans serif in a
so and then the last one is ChatGPT, and this one has all of it. Again, it looks fine, but it has all of those same things: the image with drop shadow, the overlaid stat or service or info bit, these rounded corners inside of rounded corners. And again, it looks, that's a very funny looking dog. That's very cute, but it looks fine. But this one in particular, I was like looking at this. What is it? What is it for? Is it an app? Is it what? It just kind of, that's the problem that I'm trying to communicate is that like the lack of personality or the generic personality of some of these websites, I think makes it harder for people to understand right off the bat what they're even talking about. So let me, that's all the preamble. Let me show you what I have found to be a really good prompt to explore different variations and figure out like, how might I make this different? So we have, I dropped a link in the YouTube chat to this. This is our mega marketing prompt library Google Doc. We're putting this, we're putting the prompts that we use as we go into this doc. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time walking through this, but this is something you could try with your own designs in the tool. And the really important part of this is this little paragraph here, where you're talking about who this site is for. You give a brief introduction of who you are, like what your business is. And I'll show you what that looks like in practice in just a sec. Then you describe some of the things that your taste runs towards. Like, what are the things that you like? What are the designs and products and brands that really resonate with you? And then give it some guidance on the voice of your writing, just simple stuff. So you can see that in practice in my prompt, where I said, Mainline Mutts is an independently owned dog walking company. Give some more information about that. My taste runs toward Notion. I like Notion's website. Skate culture. I like that sort of aesthetic. And zines, you know, like independent magazines and newsletters and stuff. The voice of my writing is relatable, quirky, and kind. And then there's all of this logic built into that prompt about specific things to avoid and to check for. And I actually...
And just to reiterate, this prompt is in the doc that you shared in chat.
Yeah,
right?
so you could copy paste it into your own design software and see what it does. A neat way that I would suggest that you play with this is go into ChatGPT, if you have ChatGPT, or into a builder, if you're using a builder, and just have it rebuild a website for you, a simple one. This is just an experiment to help you get better at this type of stuff. And then put this prompt in and see what it gives you. Because what it's going to...
Yeah. To that point, Tabby asked earlier, I didn't use Claude for my website. I used it to build my app. Should I use it for my website? I made one on Shopify, kind of like a landing page. Would it be better to use Claude for my website? I would like give it a go and see, like, compare the results, right? Like, I think the answer is in the output, but it's not a big time commitment to find out if it produces a better result for you.
Oh, I think we just flashed out and then back. So
glad you came back that fast.
So let me show you what the result was. And this is, I really love this prompt because it doesn't just immediately go into implementation. What it does is it gives you ideas on directions you could pursue. And I was kind of going through this fast for the purpose of this demo, but it proposes 3 different things: a WOG lock zine, spot check, and a safety club. Because in my my page itself, one of the things that I really cared about was I wanted people to know that I would prioritize the safetyness and happiness of their dogs. So it normally I would say just pick one of those to explore. But if you're using this just to experiment, what I did is I said, can you create all 3? And again, I'm working in ChatGPT, where this is a great place to experiment. You could do the same thing in Claude. And what it built for me were 3 variations. So again, this is the original one. And then the versions I got were, this is the field note energy, where it kind of makes it look a little bit more zine-y, but follows the same structure. The second is the spot check. Same structure, just different styles.
Yeah.
And the last one is also same structure, but very, you know, like different styles here. So now I have 3 different like styles to choose from, but the structure of my page was not meaningfully different. So this is what leads into the next prompt. And you can see this in the mega prompt doc as well. Oh wait, no, sorry. This was that's a later one. But here I just gave it some direct feedback. I was like, this is getting better, but they still feel generic. I want you to take a pass at rearranging the content on the screen. And actually, I'll paste this into the doc as well. I'm going to format this in just a second, but sorry, I was just copying that. But I asked for big changes now because I have the styles. And what I got back were much more major restructures now. So it is like actually restructuring the layout of the page. It's throwing in wholly new colors, doing things like weird, like what it was trying to do here is show notes pinned up against a wall. And so they feel like a little off kilter, just things that are different than you would normally see on a site. So that's the first one. The second one was this one. I really love that headline. Your dog is not a route optimization problem, which is something that folks, when they're looking for dog walkers, often find is like, are you just going to take my dog in an uninteresting route for them? But that's the second one. And then the third one I got was this one, which was all about safety. Again, like a little janky, but I told it to go wild, and it did. And it's giving me some interesting ideas here. And here is where I kind of really dialed in on the one that I liked. I liked the walks with receipts version. That's like this one with like the note paper. So I was like, dig in on this one. But it's a little too chaotic. Can you update it? And here I want to show you something interesting. It told me it updated it, but it hadn't. This is the exact same page it had shown me before. And that's something that you just have to be careful of with these tools is check their work. Like make sure that it actually did the thing it said that it did. Because I didn't notice that first time. So I asked it to keep making additional changes. And then when I got down to, where did I really notice? So I got down to here and I asked it to implement this big round of changes. And then I opened it up and I was like, this is still the same thing. And I finally recognized it and I told it, you didn't make any of these changes you said you would make. Actually make them. So it did. And now you can see this is meaningfully different. The centered text, this new presentation of stuff here, you know, a whole new structure for the page. Pretty cool. Receipts from humans. That's how it describes my testimonials from happy customers. But there's a lot of jank here. That's a technical term. Like this weird spacing here. The fact that these run into the image above them. Just like weird spacing stuff. And I could go through the process of trying to list out everything I saw wrong, but that is time consuming, it's prone to inaccuracy, and it's not the best way to work with AI that can interpret images. So instead what I did is I took a screenshot of the page, and this is the actual next prompt. I did what I'm calling a screenshot critique. And this is where, like, after you're generally happy with the content of the page and you want to do like a cleanup and refinement of it, this is the perfect time to take a screenshot of the page and give it this prompt. I want you to critique it and look for visual bugs like double dividers, text without enough padding, all stuff like that, and provide me with a list of changes you think we should make. This is me working with the model as a creative partner because I don't want it to just make all these changes. I want to know what it thinks that I should do so I can work with it. So I ran that, and you can see here I attached my screenshot of the page. And it breaks out in very high level or in very detailed feedback what it thinks it would change. And we could read through all of this, but it's not super important right now. Because at the end, it kind of rolls up what it would do if it were making the changes. And just for the purpose of this demo, I didn't really read this. I was like, okay, make the 5 changes. Here again, it said that it did, but it hadn't made any changes. So I had to prompt it to actually do it. And I got this, which is much cleaner compared to the previous version. A lot of the issues I was talking about have been cleaned up.
That's a really interesting step because I was actually going to ask you a little bit earlier if you were finding more success being like explicit and directive, or like I guess what I call almost like supportive in the feedback, where it's like it's really funny. I'm actually I coach my son's youth travel team, and one of the things that we were learning about was like, don't tell them what they could have done differently. Ask them what they think could have done differently.
Yeah.
What they could, and it almost feels like you took that approach that's kind of supportive versus directive approach, where you're like, take a look at this and list out what you think should be fixed. It allows, I mean, it's more efficient for you, but it also allows you to then like actually review and be like, yes, let's fix A, B, F, and Q.
Yeah.
Well, not just have these revisions run or have to sit there and call out as is so often. And I mean, that's a powerful thing, because if I'm working with a real designer and I get a draft or a revision, I have to give explicit directive feedback on every single little thing that I want changed. I can't just go back to them and go, I received your draft. What do you think we should change?
Yeah.
They would have done it. But this is like such an improved process in that sense.
Yes. And this wasn't even the end, because I want to show you one more thing. Like, it did a bunch of cool stuff. Like, this looks much more put together. I love, like, again, the personality of it.
It has unique personality.
Yeah, it's independent.
This is not out of the box style that any of those platforms is going to come up with a simple prompt.
But so, like, here's the thing where we've talked a lot about, like, in a world where AI can do this, what is the benefit of a human in knowledge work, in creative work? And it all comes down to taste. Because, like, I look at this and it's cool, but there was one thing that really got me. It's like, what are these things? These 8 blocks, like, what are they? I didn't really know, so I just asked. Like, I'm working with a junior designer. Where was that? Where was my comment? Oh, here. I was just like, what is the walk receipt section trying to communicate? It's not clear. And then I called out one other bug that I had seen. So it described to me what it was trying to do. It was trying to communicate the fact that, like, every individual dog has its own experience. And that's one of the cool things, is that I recognize that. So it was like, okay, it's not clear to you. Let me propose a different way to accomplish this. And it did. And it showed me, like, what the new receipts would show. It would call out the specific dog and the date and then notes about it. It's much easier to understand conceptually in my mind. So I was like, okay, let's implement it. And what I ended up with is this page, which has the same hero, but now on the receipt end, it really calls this out. It's like, the point is simple. I notice things, not just whether the walk happened, but how your dog felt, what kept them safe, and the tiny weird details that you want to know. And then it gives me some fun little receipts that people can hopefully associate with their own dogs, and shows that I care about their dogs as individuals. So Murphy on Tuesday chose the shady side of the street without being asked. Penny on Thursday, negotiation lasted 4 minutes. Penny won spiritually. And Blue on Friday, the overall mood was the senior stroll legend. I just love it.
Penny refused to walk past a suspicious inflatable flamingo.
That's important to know.
I want to hire you to walk my puppy.
Yeah, it's just,
this is great.
It's this type of stuff, the personality like this, that actually is the meaningful thing for many people. Because here's, like, the uncomfortable truth about our websites, is that oftentimes when people get to our websites, they already have intent. By the time they get to their website, most of the people who visit it already have some idea of whether or not they want to interact with you. And that's what the purpose of this section, the hero of your website, is to get people to do the thing, the main thing. Like in this case, get started with me. But the important part about scrolling the page, and we talk about this when we're talking about landing page optimization, is every single scroll that someone makes shows that they're still interested, that there's something there, and it's on you to make the sale, to close the sale. So it's really important that you don't treat the lower content on your page as just throwaway, because the people who are engaging with it are actually your the people who you most need to convince. And the deeper they get on the page, the more you really need to be working to make that conversion. So here I'm trying to communicate the values of myself as an individual. I start to tell my story to try and give people an idea of, like, why am I good for their dog? Why can they trust me? Down here, I include testimonials from other people, still more
Yeah.
how they can trust me. Yeah.
Element.
And then down at the end, like if they're not willing to, by the time they get here, if they're not willing to make the big commit of scheduling with me, I give them a smaller commit of getting tips from me about their own dogs.
Yeah, but the important thing is there's still an action at the end of that. It sounds silly, but you're not even relying on them to have to go all the way back to the top of the
Yes.
page
Yeah.
to then take whatever action.